Good morning. I just came out of a 10-day intensive silent Vipassana retreat. Not the Goenka one that it feels like everybody on earth has been to, but I have been working one-on-one with a teacher here in Thailand. And I learned a lot of things that I wish I knew before I went into the retreat. So I want to share these things with you. But before that, I kind of feel like when I say the word Vipassana, every single person has a different perspective and idea about what that is. So I'm gonna let the me with the whiteboard explain what the type of Vipassana that I have been practicing exactly is. Go. So this feels. I really feel like a professor with all this stuff. I never had a whiteboard before. It gives you a certain kind of power. Okay. So the practice of Vipassana is based on the 4 foundations of mindfulness, which are body foundation, which is all the physical sensations that we receive through the 5 senses. We've got the mind foundation, which are the thoughts and the emotions, imagination and memory, almost everything. Then we've got the feelings foundation, which is a bad translation, but it's difficult to translate to English from Pali. It's best described as a feeling tone, and there's only 3, which is positive, negative, and neutral. Like positive is when you eat chocolate, negative is when you get hurt, and neutral is when you're brushing your teeth. And then we've got the mind objects, which are the 5 hindrances and the realization of anicca, dukkha, and anatta, which I'm not gonna go into because this would be way too long. But basically what you do in Vipassana is that you sit or stand or do anything and you are observing the interplay of these 4 with each other. And you can try right now. Let's try right now. So just to see how it works, let's just put out our hand and let's pinch it. Just pinch it like this. Right now you sense there's a sensation. Okay, so that's the body foundation. So we could make the mental note in practice that touching or sensing, and then we could start twisting a little. And suddenly many things happen in the same time, because as we started twisting, the sensation became unpleasant, which is negative feeling. So it became a negative feeling, and after that became the mind saying stop it. So just in 1 second we went through body sensation to feeling to mind. And then I would say that we went also to the mind object, which also includes the 5 hindrances, which are disliking, liking, restlessness, sleepiness, and doubt. So when you're sitting in meditation, you're really just watching the interplay of these 4 and how they interact with each other from moment to moment to moment. And you're always observing what is dominant, what stands out in the moment. So if there is a strong body sensations, that's what you're gonna focus on. But you're not really focusing, you're just noticing. If there's a strong emotion, that is your object of meditation. And then if that emotion changes into maybe disliking, then the mind object becomes the object of your meditation. So from moment to moment, the object of the meditation is keeps running around, and you are just you're not trying anything, you're just seeing where it goes. Yeah. And the point of mindfulness practice or Vipassana practice is to, by noticing these phenomena appear and disappear, we are creating a space between them. Because if all these 4 circles would be very tight together, that they would just make 1 circle, there would be no space for anything else but the I. And that's all there would be, just the I. But in the practice, we are, by noticing the phenomena, we are pulling these circles apart, and we are creating a bigger and bigger space in between the circles, so the I just disappears. And also the circles disappear and everything disappears, but that's a different conversation that I'm not qualified to talk about. And yeah, so we have these 4 foundations, and they give rise to the I. So it's not just thinking, but it's I'm thinking. It's not just sensing, but it's all that hurts. It's not just aversion, it's like I don't want that. These are the phenomena that we insert an I into most of the time. And this is the dramatic shift that happens in Vipassana practice, that instead of identifying with all this phenomena, you learn how to just see them for what they are, which is just stuff. It's not bad, it's not, I wouldn't say it's delusion, it's nothing special, it's just stuff. It's nature. Nature unfolding like the weather or anything else. And you don't take it so seriously. It really takes the romantic aspect out of spiritual practice, unfortunately, but it's fun. So yeah, so that has been the practice, just sitting and watching phenomena arise, exist, pass away. Just watching the mirage of phenomena change from moment to moment. And it's really hard to put it into words because it's not some concrete, like a concentration practice, focus on this point. It's really fluid and flexible. It's very hard to talk about it. But that's not the point. I think the first thing that is important to say for me is that when you go into an intensive retreat and let's say you want to work on certain things that are different from the things that you're working on during your everyday life, that is not going to be the case. The stuff that you have to work with in everyday life are the exact stuff that you're going to end up working with in the retreat. So if you're working with or you're suffering from restlessness or anxiety or stress or whatever, those are the things that you're going to work with. And you can have any kind of fancy ideas about what kind of spiritual realms you will discover in this deep state of silence, but that's not going to be the case, probably. At least it wasn't for me. Because I went into this retreat with hopes and expectations. And after 5 days, all the expectations just had to crumble into pieces. And I found myself in working with the stuff that have been present in my life for the past 16 years. And now we come to the second point, which is honesty with yourself especially, which is very hard because it's very subtle and you don't really want to face exactly where you are because it's kind of messy and I tend to treat it as irrelevant. I'm going to give you a concrete example. I have been the first 5 days, in the first few days in the retreat, I was struggling with severe aversion towards the practice. I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be there. I just really pushed it away. And I would escape into watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine in my mind and watching all kind of movies and TV shows and sexual fantasies. And I would go into these fantasies because I was pushing away what was in the moment. And you have, in good cases, if you don't, then go to a different place, but you should have an interview with a teacher every day or every few days. You go in and you kind of check in with your practice and you can tell the teacher about what has been happening. And every time I would go to see the teacher, I would always kind of prepare in advance what I'm going to say. And there was just a little hidden note of trying to impress him in a way, like so he said that like, oh, you're doing really good. So I would kind of, this wasn't conscious, but I wouldn't mention all the fantasies and all the aversion and all those stuff that would come up. I would always focus on the deepest part of my meditation, and I would only talk about that, like what happens when I was the deepest, and all the other stuff that was the dominant, that was taking up most of the time, I would just kind of push aside like as irrelevant, and I would talk about the stuff that I thought was important to him. And after 5 days of doing that, when somehow in some way it came up, he was like, "This is the stuff. Where has this been all this time? This is the stuff you have to bring." And I was just shocked because it didn't fit into my expectations about how it should be. And yeah, let's talk about the third thing, which is mindfulness. Because I had certain concepts about what mindfulness is before I went into the retreat.
And because of those concepts, any experience I've had, I just try to kind of make it fit into the concept, or I try to make the concept fit into the experience. But that stopped me from actually allowing mindfulness to happen. Because as it turns out, mindfulness is not a particular experience as one would like it to be. It's not a thing. It's not like, oh, I'm conscious of eating and I'm focusing on the taste, or I'm consciously walking down the street and I hear the birds. It's not mindfulness. That's something else. Mindfulness cannot be put into words. It's not a specific experience that you can talk about. It's something that happens when you drop all effort, all trying, all expectations. It happens. You cannot be mindful in the sense that you cannot do it. It's not something you can do like everything else in life. It happens. And it's really annoying because I'm coming from a model of I can achieve things through willpower and through working hard. And that was the very mindset that stopped me from being mindful most of the time. So I think this is the major thing, that it's really important to not do any effort, to not put any effort into it. If you go to a retreat, don't put any effort into it. I swear, it's gonna work better. Because when you stop all effort, there's a certain, it's like in Tao, they call it the Wu Wei of the Wu Wei, yeah. Like non-doing, when you're not doing anything and still everything gets done. That's when mindfulness happens. And I just realized I know nothing about mindfulness. And I probably won't know anything about mindfulness ever, because it's not something to know about. And every time I was like, I thought that, oh, this is it, I had it, that was mindfulness, and the other day it changed. And it turns out that was just, maybe in the moment it was mindfulness, but my mind just turned it into a different experience, like a new experience all over again. So the next day I would try to fit into the experience I had the previous day. So you see how I kind of just like, yeah, dig myself deeper into darkness. It's really cool. Right behind me there's a Buddha just watching me when I'm saying. It feels good. Yeah, but the more I talk about it, the more it feels weird, because it's not something to talk about. I think you should try it. I genuinely think you should try it. Just go for it. Find a place with a good teacher who pays attention to you, who you feel you can be honest with, and just try it out. It really changes things. Not really, but I don't want to give you any expectations. It's difficult to talk about it because I can tell you right now where I am and where my mind is at, and it's really, for me, it's really interesting and really amazing how things have changed because of these 10 days. But don't expect any change to happen. This is funny. Just try it and see what happens.